The movie begins with the scene showing a dwarf man getting ready for work. He knocks on his neighbor's door and wishes a good morning to the man he calls Professor. They walk down the stairs together and open the Golden Spike store. The little man turns on the switches, and we can conclude that it's a store that sells miniature trains. He asks the professor for his tasks for the day and heads in to start working on them. With his close observation skills, he assembles the trains. Sometime later, a kid drops by to place an order and is shocked to see the little man for the first time. After work, the little man is ridiculed by a couple of kids asking where Snow White was. The man ignores them and continues on his way to the grocery store. At the checkout, the cashier calls for the next guy but soon apologizes for not noticing the little man. Moving on, the little man eats dinner with the professor and they discuss about watching a movie later. They are part of a club that watches movies made by train chasers, people who film trains passing them by. The professor doesn't enjoy the movie much, and their routine remains about the same. The next day, while at the store, the little man hears a thud and he heads out to find the professor on the ground. The little man is shocked, and we learn that the professor has passed away. In the next scene, the little man can be seen speaking to the professor's attorney, and we learn from him that the professor's name is Henry, and he has left the little man some property in Newfoundland. The attorney says that it is half an acre of land with an old train depot and shows the little man the appraisal of the property. The attorney also reveals that the Golden Spike has been sold, and he's got 6 weeks until everything is finalized. The little guy walks out with a suitcase from his building and walks across town along the railroad. He walks and walks and walks until he finally reaches Newfoundland, and soon enough it starts raining there. The man enters the building and finds that there is no water and electricity. He cleans the place up and spends the night thinking about what to do next. In the morning, the little guy is woken up by the noises outside. He heads out to find a hot dog stand. The man is on the phone, and initially he is startled to see the little guy. He cuts the call and starts chatting with him. We learn that the hot dog guy is taking care of the truck for his father, who's sick at the time. Seeing him not stopping, the little man interrupts asking for his coffee and leaves immediately after getting it. The guy from the truck introduces himself as Joe, and the little guy introduces himself as Finn. Joe is surprised to find Finn getting into the abandoned depot. After this, Finn walks down the road and he notices the car ahead driving towards him chaotically. He jumps out to escape death, and the lady who was driving the car gets out the car and runs toward him to see if he's okay. Finn says that he's alright, and she offers him a ride, but he declines and walks away. Finn reaches the grocery store, and the old lady there is surprised to see him and even takes a picture of Finn without permission. At the same time, the lady who almost hit Finn reaches Joe's truck and he greets her as Olivia. Joe hands her the usual and tells her that a little guy has moved into the depot. Back at the store, Finn manages to buy what he needs while the lady looks at him weirdly. Finn walks back and Olivia, who happens to drive back, notices him. She places her coffee down but accidentally spills it on her. She starts freaking out, and Finn notices the same car swerving towards him the same as before. He jumps aside, escaping death the second time. Olivia gets down to apologize and lends her hand. She offers to take him to the train depot. Finn is surprised and thinks whether the lady might be a stalker, but Olivia soon mentions that she heard about him from the hot dog guy. Anyway, Finn declines her offer and walks away while she is still unsure to let him go. Finn reaches the depot and Joe comes towards him asking what happened to him and asks if he is really living in the depot. Finn nods and Joe gets all chatty with him, with them being neighbors, and continues to do so, but Finn cuts him off saying he would like to be alone. After a while, Finn goes for a walk around, and soon a kid starts following him, but the moment Finn turns around to say hi, the kid runs away in fear. As night falls, Finn picks up his personal project plan, and as he ponders over it, he hears someone knocking on the door. It is Olivia, who has come to introduce herself, and she apologized to Finn for trying to hit him with the car. Olivia offers him a housewarming gift, and Finn welcomes her inside. He pours the drink in his teacups, and when they start drinking, Olivia gets a call. She learns that Finn doesn't have a phone here, and goes on about how she doesn't like using them either. Olivia tells him that her husband got her the phone, but they are not together anymore. As they start talking, Olivia finds that Finn inherited the place from his friend, and she shares how her son Sam had passed away too. She asks Finn to leave her be, and just like that we jump to the morning as we find Olivia sleeping on the couch. She wakes up shocked and leaves immediately. Finn is lying in the bathtub and he comes out after he hears the doors shut. While Olivia gets to her car, Joe greets her asking whether she missed her train last night. While Finn takes the blanket off the couch, he hears knocking on his door, and this time it's Joe who brings him his coffee. Joe asks Finn about what happened, and Finn clears that she brought a bottle of bourbon and she just slept. While they're at it, they hear a phone ringing and Joe comes to pick it up. Seems like Olivia left her phone, and Finn asks Olivia's address from Joe so that he can return it to her later. Joe asks, wanting to join in if they do something later, but Finn denies doing something and closes the door. Finn walks over to Olivia's house and leaves her phone outside the door and leaves. Inside, Olivia is painting and she gets a call from her ex-husband David, but she doesn't pick up the phone. Soon she hears someone knocking on her door and rushes out. A lady named Janice has dropped by to check in on her, but Olivia brushes her off, mentioning that she has somewhere else to be. Janice points out that her phone is outside, but Olivia asks her to leave it be and leaves. At this time, Finn is at the library picking out a book. As he walks out reading, he almost bumps into a woman who freaks out after seeing him. She apologizes since she thought that no one was there, and we find that the lady is the librarian. She asks Finn for a mail as proof of address to provide him with a library card. At this time, Olivia drops in surprisingly and offers him to use hers, but Finn refuses, stating he'll come back later. Olivia also apologizes for overstaying at his house, and the librarian is surprised to hear that out. Finn bids her bye and leaves. As Finn returns back to the depot, he finds a book at the door, and Joe mentions that Olivia left it there earlier. Sometime later, Finn looks around the abandoned train, and the kid from before drops by asking if he goes to school. Finn tells her that he's done with it, and she introduces herself as Cleo and leaves back home. The next day, Joe knocks on the door to wake Finn up, and soon a car drops by his truck. Two guys walk out, and they notice Finn walking out of the depot. They soon start ridiculing him, but Joe asks them to shut it. They leave soon after inviting Joe to join them play on Friday night. We find Finn reading the book on a bench. Olivia drives past as she notices him, and she reaches Joe's truck. Joe gives her the usual and asks if she is gonna pop in on Finn. She says that Finn was by the pond and she just drove past him on her way here. Joe asks her for a favor, and we see them both inside her car, probably driving to where Finn was. Joe asks her a couple of questions, and also whether she hates him since she is not being friendly with him. She says no, and soon they reach the place where Finn is reading. Finn is surprised to see him, and Joe learns that Finn is here watching trains pass by. Joe takes a look at the train guide beside Finn and asks to hang around with him for a while. Sometime later, a train passes by as Joe is all hyped up, but it ends up being a short one. After that, they walk back together and bump into Olivia walking out the grocery store. Joe gives her a heads up and asks her if she could give them a ride back home. A while later, Joe is cooking up something while Finn and Olivia wait outside. After he is done, Joe wants to say grace, and even though they didn't want to, Finn and Olivia give in. Joe serves them the food while asking Finn about train clubs. Finn mentions that there are train chasers who love to film trains, and in their club, they watch old photos or movies filmed by train chasers. Just then, Joe receives a call from home. He tells them that he gotta leave since his father couldn't find his medication, and rides away asking them to enjoy the meal. Olivia asks Finn if he is a train chaser, and he denies since he doesn't know how to drive, and since he doesn't have a camera. They start eating and are surprised since the food is indeed delicious. The next day, Joe joins Finn on his adventures, and while they return, they run into the librarian who asks Finn if he's got his mail yet. Finn replies with a no and continues walking away. Joe is shocked by his attitude, and at this time, Olivia drops by at the depot looking for Finn. She hears Cleo playing inside the abandoned train and goes to her. They introduce themselves, and Cleo learns that Olivia is here looking for Finn. Cleo asks if she is Finn's mother, and Olivia replies, smiling, that she is a friend. Cleo then invites her inside the train to show her Spike collection, and Olivia agrees, feeling that would be amazing. An hour later, Finn and Joe reach home, and Cleo tells them that Olivia left something for Finn. They find a film camera, and Joe reads the note from Olivia mentioning happy movie making. The next day, Joe ends up late since he had to take care of his sick father all night. He asks Finn why he doesn't sit by his truck to eat, and Finn answers that he loves to read while he eats, and if he sits there, Joe will not stop talking to him. Joe promises to be quiet and will also read along with him. We find them reading, but Joe soon starts talking. Finn reminds him about his promise, and Joe tells him that he's been quiet for the past 20 minutes, but Finn corrects him, stating that it's only been 9. Joe asks Finn when they'll go on their adventure, and Finn answers that it will be tomorrow. Joe then picks up his phone and calls Olivia. The next time we see them, they are on the tracks, and we find that Olivia has joined them too. They sit by the bridge as they enjoy the view with some beef jerky and continue their journey. They rest in front of the depot, and Joe joins a guy who is playing with his kids, and seeing the kid, Olivia starts tearing up since she is reminded of her son, and she gets up to leave. The next day, Finn joins Joe on his hot dog truck as they film their first video of a train. Joe feels excited to become a train chaser, and they reach Olivia's house to hang out later. They have a nice meal together and watch the film they made together. Joe gets wasted, and Olivia asks them to sleep at their place. Finn and Olivia talk about her son and have talk about life matters. The next morning, her ex-husband David drops by and is shocked to find 2 guys there. Olivia is not happy to see him, and David clearly misunderstands the whole situation. So, Finn and Joe leave them to their matters and exit the house. Back at the depot, Cleo visits Finn and asks him to come speak at her school on Friday, but Finn is not open to the idea and tells her that he doesn't want to. Cleo is not happy to hear this. After she leaves, Joe joins Finn to spend some time reading, and they go on their walk. The day ends as we see Finn and Olivia pondering about how their lives are headed. The next day, Finn receives his first mail and heads to the library to get his own library card. There, we learn Finn's full name is Finbar McBride, and the librarian's name is Emily, and she compliments that Finn's got a nice chin. After this, Finn spends time with Joe, and they find Olivia's car driving towards them, but she doesn't stop and drives away. While they worry about her, Joe gets a call and asks Finn if he would like to join him and his father that night for a drink. Joe is surprised to hear Finn agree to the plan, and sometime later, Finn is at the grocery store. The old lady there gets a call for delivery from Olivia, and hearing her name, Finn offers to take the delivery instead. Finn reaches her house and asks if she is alright, but Olivia cuts him off asking how much for the groceries. Finn is taken aback by her change of attitude and leaves after she shuts the door at his face. Coming back, Finn enters the bar for the first time, and Emily, who happens to be there, asks to join him. As they start chatting, Emily gets a call, and we learn that her boyfriend Chris, who was supposed to meet her there, won't be coming. As soon as she ends the call, Emily tells Finn that she is pregnant and that he is the first person she is informing. Finn remains silent, and they have their own drinks, since the ones they are supposed to meet are not arriving. After the drink, they head outside, and Emily's boyfriend Chris arrives. Emily decides to leave, not wanting to speak with him, so Chris pushes her, and as Finn interferes to guard her, Chris pushes him away as well. Emily tells Finn to leave, and she leaves as well. Finn walks back to the depot and watches the trains ride past him. The next day, Finn cleans up the abandoned train, and Joe drops in with the coffee and apologizes for not making it, since his father got sick again and he couldn't leave him. Joe keeps talking and Finn remains cold. Joe apologizes again and asks him to talk to him, but Finn tells Joe to leave him alone. Joe walks out, and the next day, Finn comes out to find Joe's truck is not where it's supposed to be. Finn re-enters his lonely life as he goes on walks all alone. That night, Finn gets a surprise visit from Emily, and she apologizes for the previous day. She informs that things didn't work out at home once she informed about her pregnancy. They start chatting about random things, and they end up kissing. Emily asks to stay the night there, and they share the couch to sleep. In the morning after Emily leaves, Finn finds Cleo outside, and they end up talking about Olivia. The next day, Finn dresses up and walks to Olivia's house, but he stays outside and starts spending time there. He does the same thing the next day, and he comes across Olivia on the phone arguing with David. Finn picks up courage and goes to talk with her, but she states clearly that she doesn't want him there. That night, Finn goes back to the bar and starts drinking. Chris notices him and offers a drink, but Finn hits the limit and smashes the glasses. He gets up on the table asking everyone to take a good look at him and leaves the place. He walks along the railroad and stumbles. He finds a train heading towards him, but he just lays there laughing. In the morning, we find Finn all good, and seems like the train went past him and only his pocket watch got damaged by it. He gets up and heads back to Olivia's place. He finds her on the ground and helps her up. Olivia tells him that David is having another baby. She hugs Finn, crying and wanting Sam back. In the next scene, we find Olivia undergoing therapy, and Finn cleans up her house and calls Joe. They visit the hospital to pick up Olivia. That night onwards, Finn, Joe, and Olivia hang out together like before. The next day, Finn visits Cleo's school to give a speech, and she gives him a thumbs up up before he begins. The kids are curious to see him for the first time. Finn starts his speech and manages to make the kids smile. Cleo is happy to see Finn share his love for trains with her classmates. Let me know what you think about this movie called The Station Agent from 2003. And I shall see you again with another story like this. Until then, this is your host for Movie Recaps signing off.